There's a few points that I would like to discuss, but I already discussed this last year, maybe 2 years ago, I don't remember, but I would like to go through the Sfasemus because I'm abusing the Sfasemus. Okay, I'm taking the Sfasemus, what he says, and then I'm going to elaborate and I'm going to take it into the modern way. But that's, of course, if the Sfasemus would be sitting, he would not be happy with what I'm doing, but I'm using his concept that I developed a little bit further.
Sfasemus was modern.
Apparently, what I'm reading here, it's quite.
So it's just a bit more than 100 years ago.
Yeah. That's what you mean in terms of recent, not so early. Now, there's a few questions. Like, okay, it's a nice ness happened, but to make it a whole Yom Tov, Klaus went through a lot of nissim that we did not celebrate. And the second point is also this idea that the Anshe Knesset Agdola had some issues with that, and they were not very happy. And there is a lot of letters written between Mordechai and Esther and Anshe Knesset Agdola, and back and forth. What's going on here? There seems to be a tension that I would like to elaborate a little bit more, a possibility of an answer, and also the element that Megillah has a very particular din that you're not allowed to read it outside, but if you read the first and the last, and the middle you don't, some psukim that you don't have, you are mutter, it's kosher. So what's going on here? Also the dinim of writing it in Megillah is very particular. There's a lot of particularities. And then when you're reading it, you can't read it as a normal Sefer Torah, you have to put it as in, what is this concept about? Where are we? What is this Yom Tov? It's a very strange Yom Tov that I would like to elaborate according to the Sfasemus. So the Sfasemus is structured with years. So every year he gave a shir, and then based on this shir, they printed. So I will start with the last one, and then I will go up to the earlier ones. So I will straight away come into the big chiddush of the Sfasemus. So he explains lechein ato achar mapulas homon, after he contradicts himself, because we'll see nase derech chodosh el Torah. There is a new way that was done to the Torah, who bechinas Torah shebal peh, because that's the bechin of Torah shebal peh. In other words, from the time of the Megillah, a new way, derech chodosh. It's I'm talking him. The Sfasemus calls it a derech chodosh el Torah, who bechinas Torah shebal peh. Ki Megillas Esther, he says, he has cholol le Torah shebal peh. The Megillas Esther is the beginning of the Torah shebal peh. And that's why he explains the Torah shebal peh, what is the beginning of Torah shebal peh, is asher nota b'socheinu. This is Anshe Knesset Agdola said in Ovo L'Tzion. This is the Torah asher nota b'socheinu. Okay, that's already a chiddush, and I will elaborate a little bit more what is mean by asher nota b'socheinu. But then he says, b'Megillah nikro Yisroel rak b'shem Yehudim. Something else very interesting. We are not the word Yisroel is not mentioned at all in the Megillah. Only the word Yehudi. Yehudi is a concept which is new, and he also discovered that, and he's the first one to actually point out to that element. Then he, in the previous year, in 2 years before that, this was in Tuf Reish Samach Gimel, in 2 years before that. And there he says something which I believe is really critical and fundamental in the understanding. He says that there were 48 Nevi'im, and they were not allowed to add anything to the Torah. The only thing that they added to the Torah is Mikro Megillah. That's the Gemara. They were not allowed to add. The only thing that they did add, and they were allowed to add apparently, was the Mikro Megillah. So, but there were 48 Nevi'im. And there he is the one, and we will come back to that, he's the one that actually connects 48 Nevi'im, Mechuvonim lemem ches dvorim shator nik nizvoim. So there are 48, there's a famous last perik of Pirkei Avos. Just before Shavuos, we finish off with the 6th perik of Pirkei Avos. And this is perik is called... Allô? Tu peux mettre sur silent, s'il te plaît? Salut.
Ga naar R10 Deskijnlei.
Waar links afslaan.
N'écoute pas, roule.
Tu peux mettre sur silent? On
Ah
t'entend.
ouais, le mec se brûle.
Non, tu vas ici à droite.
Où je vais à droite.
Tout droit, tu descends.
Ouais, je sais.
Jacques, tu peux mettre
Over
sur
600
silent.
meter.
Tu peux te mettre sur
Afslaan.
mute.
Over
Mute.
600 meter.
Nous, on
Afslaan
t'entend.
naar ring 2 richting Breda, haven 1 tot
Ouais,
999, Luik.
Ouais.
J'entends pas.
Non, mais mets sur silent. Ah, je peux le faire mettre en silent.
Non, c'est bon. C'est bon, j'entends.
Oui, mais est-ce que tu peux te mettre sur silent, s'il te plaît? Parce qu'on nous, on t'entend très fort.
Un moment. Ouais, un moment.
Okay. The Perek Kinyan Torah is the Perek that represents how you can be coined Torah is 48. So you very clearly see here a shift from the Memches Nevi'im that are mechuvonim, that are connected with the Memches Kinyan Torah. It's a very interesting viewpoint. Then he explains that normally we're not allowed to write the Megillah, אבל לפי שור, משום אס לעשות להשם, כאן בפורים נכתבו המגילה. So normally the Megillah was not allowed to be written down. So they were not allowed to write the Megillah, but because לפי שור, אס לעשות, we're allowed to write it down. What? Oh, because it's Torah Shebal Peh, and therefore the Megillah should not be written down in the Megillah. That's why he says it's called the Geras, and it's called the Sefer.
And it's only for Megillas Esther, or the 4 other Megillas as well?
No, only for Megillas Esther. Only speaks about Megillas Esther. But he says that Ach nischadesh he'orach hadosho min haTorah bichlalus b'nei Yisrael ma shelo hoyo mikoydem. Something new that did not exist previously. והיינו דאמרו שלא החידשו הנביאים אחר מוישה רבינו לבשו למצולס מגילס אסתר והוא מעין תורה שבעל פה. So he explains that this is the start of the Torah Shebal Peh. He says, what? The Chanukah is much later. Chanukah is later. That's the beginning. Yeah. And by the way, we'll see, Chanukah is going back, and then we went back. So it's like, that's a tremendous chiddush. That only then started the takonos Anshe Knesset Agdoyle. Ulechein nikras Geras v'nikras Sefer. It's both a Nigeres and a Sefer. It's an historical moment that the whole takonos that we have, because although the Chazal speak a lot about takonos Nevi'im, like Patzeros, he doesn't explain that. But it seems like he wants to say, no, there are no takonos of the Nevi'im. The takonos are started off really from the time of that time when Megillah. Then he says, V'dosehem shoiners. V'dosehem shoiners, as Roman Rosh says, V'dosehem with the Yud means that multiple religions. So the multitude of their religion. Dosehem is with the Yud between the Sof and the Hey, means that multiple religion, not their religion, one religion, but their religions. Shoiners Loshon Rabim. Why? Shebichsa v'shebal peh. So he calls it two separate religions. Now, if I would say that, people would have straight away and with probably a little bit of what you call it. I understand why people would go against me.
It's Holman that says that.
No, but he explains
it. Doesn't
it.
mean it's true.
No. He explains it, that this is the idea that it is
a perception of Holman. Maybe it's not.
No. He says the Iker itragdunusunusa al shebal peh. They created themselves siyogim and mitzvahs, which started off at that period. So that's why it's a bit a stira here, is because according to him, we only started it after the killing of Haman, and here it is Haman already noticed it. Haman says they have Torah Shebal Peh and Torah Shebichsav, and then he says here, you remember he said that Ato Achar, how does it go? He says only after the Lochen Ato Achar Mapolas Haman. And there he says that Haman already complained about the Torah Shebal Peh and the Torah Shebal Peh that they what was this tanya of Haman? that moitziim me'atzmam siyogim u'mitzvahs, they create themselves yogim u'mitzvahs, which is, he explains it, we'll go back and we'll explain what it means.
And what was after Acharon Kol HaSomon again?
Then they started with the idea of the Torah Sheba'al Peh.
Of writing it? Of
No. The
practicing it?
concept of Torah Sheba'al Peh started only after la'achar Mapol HaSomon, na'aseh derech chodosh el HaTorah, v'hu bechinas Torah Sheba'al Peh. Only after that, and he says that Haman is already complaining that they have multiple religion, that they have two religion, and there's a bit Rashi in Chumash also. Rashi Chumash says Toiros, Loshen Rabim, one Torah Sheba'al Peh, one Torah Shebechsav. So there are two Torahs.
And there is the idea of two religions. It's one Torah Sheba'al Peh, one Torah Shebechsav.
Yeah.
Which is interesting from this time because there was Koshims.
Yeah, we'll come there. We'll come. Yeah. But that will come to that. It's a beginning. Two. Dosehem. Now he says that this is the appreciation of Haman. But normally he mentions multiple times. Dosehem is the Loshen Rabin. Dosehem kiven agam al Torah Sheba'al Peh sheyicholim bnei Yisrael bekoychon lachadesh ta'am Torah. So then he says also, and that's something also very interesting, which I would like to speak a little bit today about, because there are a few things that I haven't spoken last year, so there's a few things. He explained, first of all, he says something very nice, very interesting, you can take with you. He asks a question. The Novi says that there will be 70 years, but they will be saved after 70 years. So why was he afraid? Mordechai did not have a bitochen in Hashem. It will not fail, it will fail. So what is the problem?
The question is who would remain to be saved?
So that's why he goes a step further. He goes and he says that Mordechai thought, like Moshe Rabbeinu, that the Rebbeinu will choose Mordechai he will erase the whole Jewish people and only keep Mordechai. From Mordechai and Esther will come out a new nation, and it's very money too, because that's so she married a king, and together the Jewish nation and the world together will create a new nation, and this whole concept which Manitou loves to combine, it's in the Sfasemes. Sfasemes says this was a possible chance that Mordechai thought that, and so Mordechai saved the Klal Yisrael because he said no, like Moshe Rabbeinu says. No, Emche, how do you say that? He says exactly the same thing. He says, no, I don't want to be. I want the whole Jewish nation to be saved.
Yeah, but there is a main difference between Moshe Rabbeinu and Mordechai. When Mordechai came, now, for Mordechai, in terms of Mordechai, there was no risk of killing the whole Jewish nation. It was only in the empire.
We'll come to that. Yeah.
From being like.
But the Golus Bovel, yes. The Golus Bovel, yes. A lot of Jews were already in Eretz Yisroel. We'll come to that.
It's like the Shoah. It's tradition. All the European Jews.
Yeah, and there are still Americans. And there are
some will say traditional.
But the promise was that the Golus Bovel, they would come up, and all the Golus Bovel would have been destroyed. Then he explains something else. The whole Inyan, there he goes very philosophical. The whole Inyan Bayis Sheni, Hoya Bechinas Torah Sheba'al Peh. And the Bayis Rishon was a Torah Shebechsav. Yeah? That he speaks about that the Bayis Rishon, he speaks about the Bayis Rishon as being Torah Shebechsav. I didn't put it, but I remember seeing it. Maybe you saw it somewhere else. But here he speaks about the Bayis Rishon was Torah Shebechsav and the Bayis Sheni was Torah Sheba'al Peh. And I will prove it to you with a beautiful. I came this week with something completely new. Then he explains that every time before a binyan Beis Hamikdash, tzurich lios ma'peles hamolek. Every time koidem binyan Beis Hamikdash, tzurich lios ma'bolas hamolek. That's why lechen gam koidem Bayis Sheni hoya tzurich lios michias hamolek. And we can say, some would say that the killing of the hanging of the 10 Nazis in Nuremberg was also Mechias Hamolek in order to the start of the preparation for the Bais Shlishi. Yeah. Also something very interesting. Nim shelo Esther le'ayeles hashachar shehi soif kol hanisim. So it's the end of the nisim. According to that, there are no nisim anymore. Yeah? So the end kol hanisim is the Esther. It's the end. That is the last nes.
again.
דוסיהם, כיוון גם על התורה שבעל פה, שיכול לבני ישראל בכל מחדש טעם ותורה. He says, Beis Hamikdash Rishon is inyan Torah shebiksav, and I will explain what it is. Aber Beis Hamikdash Sheni is inyan Torah shebal peh. And Megillah is also inyan chibur. The Megillah says is the chibur between Torah shebiksav and Torah shebal peh. Lechein nikra sefer v'nikra sigeres. It has both the powers of sefer and igeres. So basically, what he says is that there is a derech chodosh. From the Mikro Megillah started the derech chodosh, which is that it goes from a Torah shebichsav to a Torah shebal peh. He calls it the Bais Rishon a Torah shebichsav and the Bais Shein Torah shebal peh. I would like to point out to you something which I realized this week. I checked it, and if you can, somebody can bring me proof. I will appreciate that. What was in the Bais Rishon that was not in the Bais Shein? What was in the Bais Shein that was not in the Bais Rishon? The Bais Rishon, what was the centerpiece? Was the Oren. The Oren with the two luchos. That was not actually in the Bais Shein. What had the Bais Shein that did not have in the Bais Rishon? No, yeah, okay. Yeah. What else? There was a special little room that did not exist in the Bais Rishon. And it's called the Lishkas HaGozis. What happened in Lishkas HaGozis was the Sanhedrin. What was the role of the Sanhedrin? Is to create Torah shebal peh. In other words, for me, it is clear that what he says is beautiful. The first Beis Hamikdash is the Torah shebichsava, the luchos, that are in the center piece of the Beis Hamikdash, which unites us as a nation. The second Beis Hamikdash, since he did not have the Oren, what was his legitimacy to unite? What was it? It's the Lishkas HaGozis, it's the Sanhedrin. It is the humans. We make the legitimacy. The moment that the Sanhedrin go away from the Lishkas HaGozis, that's it. We cannot give misa anymore. We lost all our powers. The Beis Hamikdash has a legitimacy only either there's the Oren, that is the Torah shebichsav, or the Torah shebal peh, the second bias. That's the Lishkas HaGozis.
We have the korbanos.
What?
The korbanos.
Yeah, but the korbanos, of course, we do because it's a mitzvah. But it does not.
When you speak about the Beit Hamikdash, what is the first thing that comes to our mind? Is it the Mishkat HaGalit or is it the korbanos?
For me, personally, it is the Lishkas HaGozis. It's the center of the religious, it's what unites all the Jewish people in the Torah. And the korbanos are just a mitzvah that we are mekayim mitzvah. It's meeting. Okay. But it's not anymore the place where Hashem meets us, which is the Oren HaKodesh, where with the two kruvim. It's a place where we go from the Torah shebichsav to the Torah shebal peh. It's very interesting. It means because the Lishkas HaGozis, where I checked it and I realized the concept is very interesting. What is Gozis?
Marble.
What? En français, comment on dit?
No.
Non. L'ixoïs, c'est couper la pierre. Ça s'appelle maçonnerie. En fait, c'est la maçonnerie. Ça veut dire que it means that the idea, what later on became the Freemasonry, which has the same ideology of skills and secrecy and tikkun olam and this whole concept that existed is they took it from the Beis Hamikdash. They took it from Beis Hamikdash from Shlomo HaMelech. Yeah, I'm not saying, but this concept of Lishkas HaGozis and the Masonry, the idea of Masonry is not. I don't think that it is disconnected.
The Masonry in French is not causes. It's Masonry is like when you paint and you put some platter, etc.
Yeah, you make it nice, the stone, you cut it to the right format, and no?
That's rather la taille.
Yeah, c'est pas la maçon, c'est pas le maçon.
Maçonnerie, c'est plus le.
I think in English, the Mason, they call it the chambers of Masonry. That's the Lishkas HaGozis.
Be careful about translation.
Yeah, okay. But in any case, it's very nice because the Talmid Chachomim, why the Mab Misholem Boilon, there's the idea of peace, which is, and Boinoyer, they are builders, which is the idea of mason. So there is.
Qui a commencé?
Je sais pas, mais ça a commencé. Eux, ils disent que ça a commencé, je ne sais pas, mais en tout cas, le concept même, dans ma tête, j'ai eu un lien entre les deux.
Mais c'est très intéressant. Mais eux se mettent en parallèle avec,
Ouais.
avec le peuple juif.
Et se mettent en parallèle avec le Beis Hamikdash de Shlomo Amelech, ouais. Avec le Beis
Le
Hamikdash.
disque sont d'avant la chrétienté.
Ouais, ils sont encore avant la
C'est très
chrétienté.
important.
Ouais.
Ça
Non.
ne disent pas qu'ils sont une petite sœur de
Non,
la chrétienté.
non, pas du tout, pas du tout. Ils se mettent encore avant et ils parlent Tikkun Olam. Ils parlent surtout de Tikkun Olam. Et en fait, ils ont tout leur... quand tu rentres dans un temple chez eux, il y a un misbéach, il y a bâti comme les amis de Shorisha.
Et dans tous les pogroms qu'on a eu le peuple juif dans l'histoire,
Je sais pas.
est-ce qu'il tenait avec lui?
Je ne sais pas. Il y avait beaucoup de juifs qui étaient des francs-maçons.
Avec qui il tenait dans la Shoah?
Je ne sais pas.
Non, la Shoah, ils étaient contre. Les nazis voulaient exterminer les francs-maçons.
Les francs-maçons aussi, ouais. Ils étaient des... Ouais, ils étaient des...
Merci, quoi.
Non, mais pas pour des raisons religieuses, pour des raisons que les francs-maçons, c'est une caste.
Ouais.
Pour d'autres raisons.
Ouais, en plus, c'est universel aussi.
Et le Hamas aussi, d'ailleurs, voulait tuer avec Lionsgate.
Ouais. En tout cas, there is a connection. The Talmid Chacham Nikrik Boy there are builders. The Lishkan Hagozis is where the Sanhedrin is sitting. It's a very interesting. I'm 99% sure that there is no coincidence. Okay, that there is a connection between the Gozis, the idea of builders, the Masonry, and the Talmid Chacham and the Sanhedrin. So that is what one of the chidushim that I would like to bring today. The idea that when we went from the Nevi'im, the Nevi'us, towards the Chachomim, is what he also mentions is when we went from Memches Nevi'im, 48 Nevi'us, to when everything became rational. It became Chochmah. What he adds, which I never spoke about, and this is because he is a Hasidish, of course, is he adds not only the Chochmah, but also the Tzaddik. When it was the Bayis Rishon, the Tzaddik was not what do you call it, an item. People went to a Novi, to a Melech, to a Nosi, but Kohen Gadol, people had other role models in the height. The idea of a Chochem or a Tzaddik is something which is new and became the binding force of Judaism. We all are misbattling, as he calls it, to the Tzaddik. Yeah? Hasidim to the Tzaddik. Le tzaddik, c'est parce que lui, il parle au bon Dieu. Il est le représentant de. C'est le. C'est
était trempé au tzaddik.
Non, mais c'est. Non, tu as raison. I understand what you're asking, but
Oui,
in general.
C'est pas son rôle.
We don't see a person.
Ses enfants n'étaient pas des tzaddik.
Non.
Mais c'est pour ça que le Nach le mentionne.
Oui.
Que contrairement au père, les enfants n'étaient pas. Ça veut dire que le père était un tzaddik.
Okay.
Oui, mais
c'est pas Tzedkus, parce que l'auteur de Tanakh doesn't mention a tzaddik, unless he has a certain role, a novi, or is a.
Non, ça fonctionne pas. Roche, qui est un novi, le plus grand novi selon le Rambam, la Torah dit sur lui, c'est Midas, c'est le plus grand, ou il n'y a jamais plus comme ça, un grand truc. Ça veut dire que ça marche ensemble. Il n'y a pas une
Non.
Pas déconnecter la nevoie du tzadikout.
Non.
À moins que tu m'amènes un autre exemple. Amène-moi un novi qui n'était pas un tzaddik.
What I want to say is not that a novi is not a tzaddik, but the concept of aligning and misbattle to a tzaddik as just because he is a tzaddik, that is something which started off when with Mikhail. He says.
Dans le chemin des profils, pour arriver à la nevoie, il faut être un tzaddik.
Okay.
Oui, mais pas. Mais tu dois être un tzaddik pour être un novi, mais c'est pas parce que tu es un tzaddik qu'on vient chez toi.
Non.
C'est comme un novi.
C'est-à-dire que c'est un moyen d'avoir la nouveauté.
Parce que le tzaddik, c'est parce qu'aujourd'hui, le tzaddik, et moi je parle, aujourd'hui, le tzaddik, c'est le novi qu'on a, on n'a rien de mieux. Et quand on serait allé chez le novi, on n'a rien de mieux. Alors on fait le tzaddik.
Voilà, c'est ce qu'il dit. So we went from the novi, We went from the Novi, from the Nossi, from the Melech, from the Kohen Gadol. We went through the concept of a tzaddik.
Parce
which
qu'on
is
n'a
a-
rien de mieux.
Yeah, fine.
Par défaillance.
Par défaut. Exactement. And this is something which is.
Mais on recherche la même chose.
Ouais.
Parce qu'on pose au tzaddik des questions qu'il faudrait poser à nous.
Ouais.
Et le tzaddik répond comme un oubli.
Pour y réussir, c'est pas qualité de tzaddik.
Yosef Hatzadik, yeah.
Alors,
Ouais, mais c'est pas que on se met
Ouais,
autour
chez
de
lui.
lui.
Yosef, quand même,
C'était plus l'argentier que le.
En plus, c'est pas dans la Torah de chaque
Ah,
qu'il appelle
oh,
Tzadik. C'est nous, on l'appelle Yosef Hatzadik.
non, mais aussi dans un de vos chiorés, vous avez expliqué qu'on l'appelle tzaddik parce qu'il y a beaucoup de choses qui montrent qu'en fait c'est l'envers.
Ouais. En fait, ça vient un peu de lui. Mais bon. What is interesting, because you're comparing, because Mordechai is also Mordechai Hatzadik, I think he's called, and Yosef Hatzadik, but both had something very interesting. They both started working. What did they do after? What would you expect the Tzaddik, Mordechai Tzaddik, to do when after they come? Let's all go to Eretz Yisroel, and he doesn't. What does he do? He becomes a vice president of the United States of Persia. He becomes a vice president, like Yosef. Instead of going to Eretz Yisroel, he stays there and he develops there, and he's working hard, and he goes. I don't know how, whether he goes to Munich and tells the Europeans. I don't know what he does, but he works as a vice president of the United Nations, United States of Persia. That's something very interesting, very similar concepts that you find there between Mordechai and Yosef Hatzadik. So we see here something which is going from Torah Shebichsav to Torah Shebal Peh. I would like to add to that Torah Shebichsav, we already spoke about it. What is the essence of Torah Shebichsav? Is Leman Yirbo Yimeichem Alu Adom. Is, in other words, it's a way of keeping yourself on the land. Hashem wants you to be on the land, and it's a national aspiration. That's the Torah Shebichsav. At least the Torah and the Novi, the Tanakh, from the Tuf and the Nun, are clearly only about nationalism. Religion starts in Eoiv. There is more in the Ksuvim, but in the Torah and the Nevi'im, it's all about nationalism. Then we come with the Megillah, and the Megillah is the first time that we are saying, no, it's not about nationalism, but it's about religion. It's about Doseim. It's a new religion which makes us, it puts not the nation but it's the individual becomes the core of this discussion. So we're going from a nationalism, we're going to an individuality that becomes the core. That is why he repeats himself continuously throughout the Sasemes, all of us have been planted. While I explained you that the Dveikus in Hashem, according to Chazal, originally was that the idea is that when you go in the land, is you have to plant a tree. In other words, it's a symbol of I'm going to stay here. Je m'ancre, what do you say? Je m'ancre dans la terre. That is planting a tree is I'm here for staying, my generation, next generation. Nobody plants a tree for himself. The Torah doesn't us even 3 years so that you for sure are planting a tree only for the next generation, that you plant for the future. So what does the Torah say here? What the Anshe Knesset Agdoyle say? It becomes from a land to an individual. That with the Torah, the Rebbeinu planted the seed not in the land but in the humans. That we became the individuality, and that is the definition. What I always call of religion, which is the verticality, which is the me. I'm doing a mitzvah because it's going to help me. I'm going to have a olam haba. It's all about the me. It's quite an egocentric point of view, but okay, that's how it is. One of the things that I discovered when I'm preparing this shir, and I would like to share with you, and I don't know if you'll agree with me. Wherever mitzvahs are said to blow shofar, the blowing of the shofar is a national item. By blowing the shofar, the Jewish nation will have shefa. We're breaking the Sifra Achra, we are going through the tefillahs, and it's for the whole Jewish nation. Come Chazal, very interesting, come Chazal, and they say when it falls on Shabbos, what do? We don't. Why? Why? Because Shemo Yavu, Dalet Am. Who? One person. So we are taking away the context of the whole nation for eventually one person, potentially one person, and it's not going to happen every year. It might happen. But for one individual, for never the one individual make an Aveira, the whole nation has to, what does it mean? For me, it is symbolic. It's symbolic of saying from now on, we will, the individual, it's going to be an individual first approach. Normally, originally, it was a nation first. The first was the nation, and now it became the individual becomes the first. We have to look after each and every single individual. The symbolism of that is that we are willing to sacrifice for the nation, the shofar, that we are saying no because of maybe one individual that may make an Aveira. That's just for me, the purely symbolic, because we don't do it on other mitzvahs, yeah? We could have done on tefillin. Don't put on tefillin because somebody will fart, will make gas with the tefillin. Why don't we do that? And it happens. A lot of people do. So we should not put on tefillin. What is what, sorry? The lulav also. We have the lulav, but then I have to understand Mul and Mikromegillah also, by the way. So we have to understand why lulav. Maybe it's also something national. But okay, that's I'm not gonna. But for Rosh Hashanah, it's clear that this is for me. It's clearly a symbol of where it's not. And this is what I want to mention. J.F. Kennedy, which says, I don't know where he said it. He says because normally we always see today a nation or kehillah as something which benefits the individuals. Yeah, so it is individual first. And he said, don't ask what the nation, the country can do for you, but ask what you can do for the country. Do you remember?
FDR.
FDR?
Roosevelt.
It's not Kennedy?
It's Kennedy during the Cuba crisis of 19. Like there were 2 seconds.
I didn't Google it. Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought it was Kennedy.
Yeah, it's Kennedy. No, it's during the crisis in Cuba with the nuclear missiles there.
This is so powerful because that's exactly what I believe is what it's all about. We are Jews, that we are living so much individuality that when people speak about Marsika das, Shomra das, who's sober for that? You understand? So they only assuming that the Kehillah group of people and entity is only interesting if I benefit from it. But the idea is that no, we're coming from an ideology that we were nation first, the Kehillah first. I am a part of how to keep that nation alive and how to keep it in Eretz Yisroel. It's Kennedy. Thank you.
You can even see it here.
On the clip, yeah. But it's such a beautiful saying, which I think really I will probably use it more often in my shiurim and in the summer. But it's don't ask. How does it go? The nation.
Ask not what your country can do for you,
but
ask what you can do for your country.
That is so much the ideology that I want to speak today. We went from what can we do to the nation to what can the nation do for you. The individual became the core.
At the same time, inside the individualism,
you
there's
have
plenty of mitzvahs of
chesed, etc. Of course,
but it's still with an optical
of
me, my credit,
my yolam habo, and that's really a shift that happened in Megillah, in the Megillah.
What you bring from Kennedy, it's very important, I think, for your show for the rest, because this sentence is coming from a president from the country which is the most selfish country in the world.
Yeah.
No, just think that it's not a joke, it's a fact.
Yeah.
By us, I guess we believe we're exactly the opposite.
But
no, but we are the opposite.
We should be. We believe. We have our aspirations.
You see what you mean?
Yeah.
So a cruel time when they come to a point that it's almost the end of the world, that's what they say. And for us, so there is a mechanic that
it's interesting. It's a very interesting. Yeah. But I think that this is really the core of this whole Mikromegillah is the Pourim is the going from a nation first to an individual first. And there is a Gemara that says that we have to be soimer geula letfila, and we always I explained it with Kabbalah, with all kind of Kabbalistic, but I believe really, but now I believe more that what Rabbi Yochanan wants to tell us, that some kol hasomer gula letfilo ben olam habo, is somebody that tefillah is what? Tefillah is the hitpalel, is to it's me to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the gula is what? Is kinomecho Yehuda veYisrael. Yeah, that the what does it called? Tzur Yisrael kumo be'ezach Yisrael ufedei kinomecho Yehuda veYisrael. What is Yehuda veYisrael? It's what we always talk about. It's Yehuda and the Israel, the Yosef and Yehuda, to bring them together in the land. Gula is a national aspiration. Tefillah is a religious aspiration. What Rabbi Yochanan says is kol hasomer gula letfilo ben olam habo. Somebody that does not separate them, but he binds them together, is the ben olam habo. And because it's really, for me, he mentions it, by the way, there's smichas gula letfilo, but in different contexts. But it's really these two elements. The Torah Shebechsav, which is a national Torah, the Torah Shebapeh, which is a religious Torah, when you bring them together, when you are joining them together, the Chaim explained so much nicer. I already spoke about it, the Netzach and the Hoid, which is in the, I can go on and on and on that subject. Bring them together, Soimer Gula, the Tefillah, this is a Ben Olam Habo, because he understood that we need both. We not one, not the other, but we were too much in one, not enough in the other. And so in Mikra Megillah, the Megillah is really the idea of going into the individuality.
It's Rav Kooklish.
Very Rav Kooklish, exactly. Yeah, but they were close, Ger and Rav Kook. I would like to add a little bit more as the Anshe Knesset Agdola. Apparently, the Anshe Knesset Agdola did not like Pourim. They did not accept it. The Ramban, not the Ramban, which is, I think, authority which we can mention without. So he explains the following: Bizman nes Pourim, chelek godel me'am Yisrael yoshav ba'or be'Eretz Yisroel. A lot of Jews lived already in Eretz Yisroel. Acharei sheshov lohem Megillah Bovel, the Rishayon Koirash, Kamo Shonim B'fnei Chen. They were already allowed to go back. Asher goza Achashverosh la'ashmid la'u k'lavetz kol haYudim, v'yotosh Eretz Yisrael b'chol sakon hazu. They were. Ukfi shenema b'Sefer Nehemiah that they were trying. They were also in the sakon. And b'vadai, they were happy that it was b'vutel b'go. But he explains that they thought so they believe that there were sakona or toishve orim haprozois she'enu mukufes choimer oye besakona gedoyle yoiser mi toishve orim hamukufes choimer. So the ones that were really in danger were the open cities versus the ones that were in Eretz Yisroel within Choimo wall. They were more protected. Sharei haorim oyo mishovos b'dei Yisrael. They were all Jewish nations. They were not so much afraid. So what happened? Is חוגגו כולם ביום מנוחוסם אויביהם, שהוא יום י"ד, ובנישו שם ביום מנוחוסם שהוא תזבו בעוד. אולם, בשום נבוית, בני הפרוזים שהרגישו את גודל הסכנה והנס, חוגגו מעצמם את יום י"ד בכל שונו. So it was only the people that were the prozim that understood the danger. They every year started to make a yom tov, not just the first year, but also the next year. בני המוקופים לא יחוגגו כלל. The בני המוקופים מארץ ישראל did not hold of Purim. וכמשמעוס הפוסוק על כן היהודים הפרוזים היו יש באורי הפרוזוס עושים לסיום הבאוסו לחודש עודו שמחו משתב יום טוב. ואילו המוקופים אינם נזכורים כלל. They did not do it. The Mukofim Choim. They did not accept it as a Yom.
That's in Eretz Yisroel.
That's in Eretz Yisroel. לאח הזמן, העיר הקדוש ברוך הוא עיני החכמים. Imagine they were blinded, but then הקדוש ברוך הוא showed it to them. ומוצאו סמך מן התורה שרואי לעשות זכר לדוירוס מהנס הגודל הזה. וקובו יספורים כתקונס קבוע על כל ישראל. צריך הבנו that were all בני הפרוזים שניסו etc. But then the Kovos Yom Hasheni should tezvu b'odo Yom Melchosim shebnei Shushan. So the one that accepted later. So it took time. It doesn't say how many years, but at some point they did not do it directly. And there are letters, they get us Hashemis, etc. There is all kind of difficulty. We don't understand psukim, but the explanation that I've seen from Rav Zin, I don't know what's Zini, what? Zini, the one from Zohar V'Shomer. The way he explains it is very, very interesting, and I will give it my own. We are talking about Anshe Knesset Agdoilo that live in Eretz Yisroel, believe in Pourim, mitzvah, etc. We see the Yidden going to Bovel, and what we can call today, and I know that they will shoot me straight away, that we're starting to assimilate. We're talking about an assimilation from the Jews into Bovel. We see they eating at the meals of Ahasuerus, and I'm sorry, I said it already once, and now it's recorded, but it's the Mordechai had a Jewish name, and he changed it into a Persian name, Mardosh, and Esther had a Jewish name, Hadassah, and changed it into Ishtar. Esther is a Persian name, and basically the idea that you can be Jews outside of Eretz Yisrael by integrating or assimilating is something which Anshe Knesset Agdoilo could not accept. So when they came and they said, "Eva, look at the Nes HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for us," for them it was a problem. Because what's going on here? We are creating something new, a new idea that we can assimilate, look like the Goyim, have names like the Goyim. We can marry with Goyim, as happened even after the Nes. Ezra Soifer had to tell them you have to divorce all these women. So it was a whole concept that was an assimilation, but an assimilation which stopped by Avodah Zorah. The Gemara in Megillah says, because we have a new name which is called Yehudi. What is a Yehudi? What is the definition of Yehudi? Says the Gemara, Kol HaKofer b'Avodah Zorah. So what does it mean? Kol HaKofer al shum shekofer b'Avodah Zorah. Shekol HaKofer b'Avodah Zorah nikra Yehudi. What does it mean? It says that he's a Shabbos and Torah and mitzvahs, Taras and Mishpuch. It doesn't mention that. Who is a Yehudi who has kofer b'Avodah Zorah? So it seems as if he wants to say is that assimilation, yes, till a certain limit, not Avodah Zorah. When they had to bow down in front of Haman, then they said, finished, at count. Yes, we can integrate, but inside we remain Jews, in other words. It is the idea of the Jew from the inside. And that's a concept which, of course, today we horrendous because we think of all kind of stories. But that's how the concept of Mordechai as somebody that integrated in, today we call it integration of assimilation, because assimilation I know today means completely assimilation. But in the time of then it was kind of Yehudi. So we have created a new concept of Yehudi, which means a Jew, an Hebrew that lives in Golus, that keeps his religion as a religion, which means an inside. Religion means the beliefs, yeah, and then that's the most important part that keeps it. And so that concept is completely new and rejected by the Anshe Knesset Agdoilo, and because they saw that concept of a new religion as a threat, existential threat to the concept of the national religion. And so what they said is, okay, eventually we'll do it, we'll accept it, but we'll not do it on the same day, we'll do it on the 15th. And the Mukufim Choima has to be Mukufim Choima from Yeshua and not from Ahasuerus. To remind us, that's what the Ramban explains, to give a bit, to remind us that, to give a covet why Takib is Man Yeshua Benun, it should not be a bizoyan. What does it mean? To be Machabit, the nationalism. To remind us that the core, the essence of Judaism is nationalism, is about Eretz Yisroel. Okay, you want to do something on Yudalit, do Yudalit. Yudalit is the celebration of the birth of a religion and of a new status, Yehudim. But remember yourself that on Tezvot we're going to celebrate the Mukufim Choima Mimois Yeshua Binun. The Mukufim Choima is a symbol of Mukaf Choima is a symbol of we are united by one border, by one system that unites us. It's national unity. Zorim is the idea of where we are bound by one one culture, one religion, one belief that unites us together. And that's the difference between the Pourim and the Mukofim Choimo. So you want the the reason why the Eretz Yisroel they accepted Purim is only on one tonight that they're going to do it on a separate day, because they could not accept this concept as such. They were forced to accept it basically, and so therefore they said, okay, we'll celebrate it on the 15th in the Mukufim Koim Mercy Tribunal to remind us that is the Nachla Eretz Yisroel, which is still the Iker. Okay, we are now in a phase of where the Iker is the individuality, but not to forget, never to forget that we are coming from a national religion. So that's a little bit the explanation. Somebody spoke about Hanukkah, and it's true that Hanukkah was a revival of nationalism. Yeah, it's purely a revival of nationalism. And so the idea was, we came to the point that it was temporary, and now we come back to a nationalism as being our core religion. And after the Churban Bayis Rishon, especially after the Bar Kokhba story, and then the Churban Bayis Rishon, and after the Bar Kokhba story, the Chazal turned it from a national holiday into a lighting of the candles. It did not exist, the lighting of the candles originally. This is something that came later, and it became a religious festival where the light represents the Oir Lagoyim. So it represents the idea of shining to the Rishut Rabim to outside. So it's not anymore. It goes from, instead of going from nationalism to individualism, which is Megillah, it went from nationalism to universalism. Yeah. Okay. So the Purim is individualism, is religion. It's all about me and Torah Shabbater, V'chai Oilem Nota B'Sreinu. Hanukkah became a festival where we shine the Torah outside to the outside world. So it's kind of a universalism eventually. So it's a different, completely different approach.
Wait, universalism, this kind of people now.
Yeah.
Hanukkah, I mean, it's for provocation, no? To the very.
No, it's light. It's giving light in the darkness of the moment. The light represents the Torah. The same Torah. What, sorry?
If right, you post the offer.
It's a symbol of we are here to give you life. Either you come and take it, or you don't.
That's really provocative.
Okay, maybe.
To someone say,
maybe that's why Taka they had to hide it at some.
The individualism is the fact that one can also celebrate its own Purim if it has a properness.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, for himself. One person is also Purim, that's right. Yeah. But a Hanukkah person cannot start lighting a candle on. The idea of Amalek is also the Asher Kocho Baderech. It also is there the idea that we changed from religion, kind of a new religion, kind of. I'm very careful to say that, and it always exists, but it was not as a core, not first. We were first a nation and then a religion. We became first a religion and then a nation eventually. So that's the difference. The Amalek, which is the Korcho, means the down. That's again, is it cooled us down from nationalism, or is it cooled us down from religion? In other words, it was before the Matan Torah, but also before the going to Eretz Yisroel. What did Amalek want to stop us from receiving the Torah or from becoming a nation? And so each of the two schools choose the ones that he prefers, the one that fits in his agenda. So the one that the anti-Zionist school, they say that Amalek is wanted to cool us down from the Torah. Similar, therefore, the Zionist movement, which tried to cool down the Torah, are Amalekim. And the Zionist movement sees that Amalek wanted to cool us down from becoming a nation. And so all they see that the anti-Zionist movement is Amalekim because they're trying to cool us down in becoming what we were supposed to become. And so
they others that Amalek could be doing.
It could be. No, but it said that we all have, there's one of the Pourim that said that all of us, we all have a little Amalek in us. We all have a little Amalek in us. And it comes out. So we both are using, because the problem was that if Amalek would,
let's say is
is a Nazi, exactly, yeah. But the problem was that Amalek happened just before we received the Torah. If we would have received Amalek would have come after we received the Torah. Before we came to the land, it would be clear. Now we don't know what did he try to stop Amalek? And we can see two points. Either it was the Torah, what?
It's something like
The Jews, not the Summit, yes.
He's a Jew.
Actually, it is therefore, it's the first time that since we became a religion, that anti-Semitism started. Because until then, as long as we are not a religion, but just a nation, like in other nations that are goals, not a problem. But the moment that we became a religion, we are becoming, in other words, Persians, we are becoming Belgians with a Jewish religion. That's when anti-Semitism starts. As long as we consider ourselves being a nation, I'm an Israeli, then I'm a tourist, works here and permit, and they like it. But if I'm claiming I'm a Belgian, but with a Jewish religion, then it's when the things like the Germans Jews believe, and like Hashim Shlomo here said, that we are part of the nation, but with the Jewish religion, basically, if I'm allowed to translate his point of view. That's when really the anti-Semitism started. And that's the idea. The first anti-Semite was Haman. Because we have the Sehen Shoinos. We are in the first one that we speak about the DOS. The word DOS does not exist in the Tanakh, only in the Megillah. I think maybe one DOS. There's maybe one word in the whole Tanakh.
What you said, because the media Jewish point of view, it's always nice to see.
Yeah.
So we have to take up the nation. But to be honest, when Amalek attack in the other country, you see a people coming, you want to defend yourself, you are proactive in before they kill you. End of the story. It's not because of the terrorists that are German.
Because you think that they saw us as
That's
the
a
threat.
religious nation that they don't care at all. We are a threat to them. They are proactive. Someone they kill. But then you have the point of the Jews, and that's where I come from. We have always a Jewish religion on everything that happens.
I understand.
Is that religious? I know that's not nation.
I know.
If it's religious for this, is it purely religious? Just very quick. I read recently on the scholar, non-Jewish scholars about the forbidden of the Miller by the Roman.
Yeah.
And they said there is nothing. Why? Because it was made by the Egyptians, because they are quick. They were also making the Miller. It was not anti-Jews at all. It was not of the Jews. It was
anti-Semitic.
What we are not part of the Egyptians. It's all definitions. We are attacked. It's all definitions.
It's very interesting what you're saying. I'll take it with me. I understand what you're saying. But in any case, it's true that the Torah itself gives it a religious. The Torah itself gives it a religious meaning of killing of Amalek. A religious. We think that it could be that Amalek was just defending his own territory. He saw it as a threat. Yeah. Okay. So in short, so we saw the Sfasemes explaining very clearly that the Pourim is the beginning of a new era, completely a new concept of, first of all, a religion, which is called the Torah Shebal Peh, of individuality, the fact that we can create mitzvahs that it's in our hands. The Chazal went so far as saying Torah la b'shamayim. Even if Hashem says now, no, I don't want you to do that, we say him, Hashem, it's not anymore you go back to your place. We are the ones that are dealing here. That's what we celebrate on Purim, is the going from the Nevius to the Talmid HaChachamim, from the Memchas Nevim to the Memchas Borum Shater Niknit Kohen, that we are saying, and that the Megillah, that's why the Megillah is both the din of the Sefer and the Nigeres. They have the names of both, because it's both Torah Shebitzav and Torah Shebalpeh. That is why only the first posture to be written and the last posture has to be written. In the middle, they can be missing Sukkim, and you can read Balpeh. So normally, you're not allowed to read Balpeh, but there are some exceptions. First, last, strange halachas, which nobody understands, but it's in the Mishnah Berurah says. Mishnah explains it because it says Igeres. Also called Igeres. It's not only Igeres, it's something that you write, an idea that you write to somebody else. It's not a sefer. A sefer has a state. And Igeres is just a letter. And we explained that we went from the Torah Shebitzav to the Torah Shebalpeh, that going from Torah Shebitzav to Torah Shebalpeh, going from the Bayis Rishon to Bayis Sheni. The Bayis Rishon was the Luchos, and the Bayis Sheni was the Lishkas Hagozis for the Sanhedrin. In the Bayis Rishi, there is no Lishkas Hagozis. I checked, but I didn't find. But there is no mentioning. Yecheskel does not mention the Lishkas Hagozis. So I don't know where they are or what happened. But for me, did you maybe
Sanhedrin,
I don't know. It doesn't mention it.
because when this
That's what I'm saying. So this restriction, we did it on ourselves. But once we'll because how did we kill in the Bayis Rishon? If there was no Lishkas Hagozis, it is a temporary Torah Shebalpeh to give Beis Hamikdash the how do you call it, the existence, to defend the existence of Beis Hamikdash Hasheni is the Sanhedrin. That's what I believe. Personally, Lishkas Hagozis is a very important element. It places the Luchos were originally, and it was created by the Sanhedrin, which is the father, the basis of the whole Torah Shebalpeh is Sanhedrin. It's the Takonos and the Gzeros and the Limudim, etc. And then we went from, to explain a national first to an individual first. I gave you a proof, which you can argue it's wrong, is the Shia Shofar on Shabbos. We don't do it for the sake of one particular individual. This is so exceptional and so exaggerated that it looks to me purely a symbolic message that Hazar want to give us. That you are, the individual becomes what is important, not anymore the Kehillah, which is the idea that what can the country do for you instead of what I can do for the country, the nation first, nation first element. And this Anshiness Agdoila had very difficult with that concept. They did not accept. The Ramban says in many years they did not celebrate Purim, and so they decided they're going to celebrate it, but they're going to make it only in Purim Choyma. There will be, which represents the national independence, a war between only Jews. We have a independence that we will have. There we will celebrate it, but on the 15th. In other words, on a different day than all the Jews. In other words, for me personally, that means I want to separate. I accept it, but post, and I want to make sure that you remember, and also that 14 and the 15th are together. This is what I call smicha geula l'tefillah. In other words, the idea that the nationalism and religion have to be linked together. Ezu ben olam habo, the one that is tomer geula l'tefillah, which is the idea here that we are today indeed in the religion first, individual first, but originally we come from a nation first. We are going to go back to the idea of the Nevi'im, of Melech, of Nesiim, etc. And what I personally understand is that what the Purim is for the individual, Hanukkah is for the universe, is for the humanity. But we are the Or Lagot. So that's what Hanukkah represents. We both went away from nationalism. Purim is for the individual as a basis, and Hanukkah is for the universal element of Judaism. They go around. They go around.
With lighting, with the grime.
Yeah.
Lighting.
Put it outside, mamish on the streets, because it's really the message. It's the goyim as well. The universal character that Hanukkah represents. According to Levinas, he says Purim also, but okay, I'm not going to go into, because Harbe Nisyadim, there is an element in Megillah of universality, but I think it's the main idea is the individuality.
And how do you think people like to
No.
do of this?
Balpeh.
Yeah.
So that's what they explained. Tosha Balpeh. They did not want to accept Tosha Balpeh. And here we accept. Meaning he became the David the on the team Tosha Balpeh. Not anymore the Tosha.
After that, they the
I don't know.
Christian.
He
Then
says
we have-
that the Sfasemes says that Tosha Balpeh means the takonos in the Giteros. Things that we do
So
ourselves.
the Rabbanim,
All the limudim. He doesn't speak about the limudim. We can move this.
but it's not.
No. The Rambam would never speak
Because
about.
the Rambam is
Yeah, Yeah. No, I don't know exactly what the definition is. That's why I didn't want to define it because that's already a different share on what is then the definition of Torah Shabbat. It's not clear also in Chazal also not Torah Shabbat. There's a few Gemorahs which speak about that, which one is bigger in terms of size, and it depends on how you define Torah Shabbat. But, so I abused of the Sfasemes because he clearly, when you read the whole, you have to read the context. And I agree, I took out of the context. But what he does speak a lot, and that's what I find is very, very powerful, is the achdus. The Pourim has to create an achdus between the people. That's why Mishloach Monos is very important, and the Matanos Yonim is to create and to come together. And we don't have, as much as we don't have a nation anymore. What binds us together is the Torah, of course, but physically also together and join and to give and speak a lot about this achdus. This achdus is also common claimed methodorim. There were no achdus specific, and what is as to say, Knois Kol HaYehudim. The idea of the achdus. Once Klal Yisrael came together. Interesting, like I explained to you, it doesn't say to daven. There's no mentioning of davening, interestingly enough. There's no mentioning of Hashem. There's no mentioning so many strange things. It's all Megillah. It's so strange that it's really, we have not come yet, I think. This is a very nice possible explanation, but there is still so many mysteries in this book of Megillah that we are missing, and I hope that we'll find more sources to explain up better this tension that existed between Anshkas Agdoila, why they did not want to edit the last paper that they added, and they did not want to, and why, if it's Metama Yodayim and not Metama Yodayim. You see, there is so much tension around this Megillah Esther that requires a lot more investigation, but the Bitakas Doiche, the Gula Shlema, where we can be so much the Gula Letfila, both together into one. And not that we should be only a nation or not only a religion, but we should be a religion that has that is within the nation, and a nation that follows religion. We should be zeicher to that the Gula B'Meir. Bye. Bye. Profites-en.